buying has fundamentally changed. And the real driver for this is that, there used to be this blue ocean. Maybe there was 10, 15, could be 20 competitors in your category. Now, there is just this explosion of competition. It's effectively a bloody red ocean where you could have thousands of competitors. And the reason is, that it's easier than ever to start a business. Software is so cheap to produce. You don't need to limit yourself to skills in a geographic area. You can hire people anywhere. And while venture capital is relatively harder and more expensive to acquire now than say 2 years ago, historically it's still pretty cheap. And so you're now competing against many, many more businesses, and that's a problem. And so this has really driven this change in the way that buyers buy. Right? It used to be that sales would push people into a pipeline and convince them to buy, and the salesperson really controlled that process. Nothing could happen until the salesperson progressed the sale. Fundamentally different now that the buyer is out there evaluating all these vendors, and even to be considered in that pool, you need to be, have this top of mind and secure this mental space in the customer before you even think about getting shortlisted, right? And so the new way is the buyer controls their buying process, and so marketing really has to find the people that are ready to buy now and help them learn why you are the best option. And sales then makes it easy for them to buy. They're this assistance process, right? Very different sort of approach. And so one of the most impactful things that we can do to accelerate the sales cycle, like shorten its length and increase our pipeline velocity, the amount of money that's flowing through our funnel, is by messaging. We know that messaging alone can give you a 10x improvement in results, right? It's crazy. Like, out of all the things, messaging is like one of those few things that really tips the scales in your favor. Because we know that when we're looking at our revenue growth, there's 4 main things that really drive this. There's the win rate percentage, there's the average contract value of deals closed won, the number of qualified opportunities, and the length of the sales cycle. So the better all of these are, the more revenue you build and the faster you build it, right? And so some of this is impacted by product, some of it is by how much demand you create, some of it is about the number of qualified opportunities versus unqualified, right? Obviously, deal size makes a big difference, but win rate percentage and sales cycle length are 2 things that we can really play with that messaging can have a direct impact on. Now, what is pipeline velocity, right? It is how much money is moving through your funnel at any one time. Typically, we look at this on a quarterly basis. Some people call this sales velocity. Doesn't matter, right? Talk to your CFO, they'll understand this. But effectively, it is the win rate times the annual contract value of deals won times the number of qualified opportunities all over your average sales cycle length for that period over 91 days, the average number of days in a quarter, right? Really simple, highly recommend. Go and do this. Look at this yourself, right? So improving messaging is the most effective way that any business has to increase and accelerate the growth, right? How much revenue you're bringing in and how quickly you do it, right? So let's look at a semi-real example, right? Like this fictional SaaS company. They've got a product, it's 10K ACV, fairly standard. Now, in this example, we're using the same number of qualified opportunities. So we're not having any sort of impact around messaging on the number of leads that you bring in, whether they're qualified or not. So we're not talking about demand creation or capture. All we're looking at is the win rate. We go from 15%, which is fairly standard for an average performing SaaS business, to 25%, which is a good performance metric for win rate. And we move from a 90-day sales cycle, again, average performance, to a 60-day sales cycle. So let's look at the impact that has on your cash flow and your velocity of pipeline, right? So here you can see red is the old way, green is the new way. So we've made some improvements to our messaging that has shortened the sales cycle length from 90 days to 60 days. And we have kept the same ACV, we've kept the same number of qualified opportunities each quarter, but our velocity is increasing much faster and much higher, right? And so what does this turn into, right? So if we want to go and measure this at 90 days, winning at 15%, we bring in around 3 million in revenue over that period. Whereas if we shorten that to 60 days at winning at 25%, that's $5 million. That's an additional $2 million in revenue, like a 66% improvement on performance. Now, I don't know any SaaS business that wouldn't jump at that. And all we've done is measure the impact of improving the messaging on sales cycle length and on your win rate. That doesn't even take into account the improvement that you're going to get in pipeline of number of qualified deals by being able to create more demand. Because we know that only 3 to 5% of buyers are ever in market at any one time. And what's pretty scary these days is only 32% of them reach out to sales before the final stage. That means 68% are evaluating you before they even talk to you, before they engage, before you are aware. So this is only on that small percentage that speak to you, right? And before they've made decisions. So improving your messaging has an amazing, it's like super significant impact on how your cash flow runs through your business. And that has flow-on effects to your burn rate, to your zero cash state, right? If you are a business that is reliant on bringing money in the door to survive, like you don't have anything else that is keeping your business running, like messaging is probably the first thing that I'd recommend you look at, right? How can you improve your messaging? And there's lots of ways that we can, take you through that, but the impact is undeniable, right? And so if you're looking to grow faster, improve your win rate, shorten your sales cycle, right? And that also has flow-on effects to sales productivity, right? Salespeople, dollar for dollar, are expensive. So if I'm paying for a sales rep, I want them bringing in cash, right? How can I make them more effective, right? And so messaging is going to drive that for you.